This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. This city is one of the 15 largest in the world by population. And fun fact, it has the world's busiest monorail system, which is part of its metro network. More on that later. This city would be the largest in Europe if it was there, but it's only the third most populous in its own country. I'm talking about Chongqing, probably the largest city you've never heard of. Or if you've heard of it, you probably don't know much about it. I don't think I'm going out on a limb by saying that the people in my audience know more about Buenos Aires and Istanbul. There is no catchy TMBG song about Chongqing, but I would definitely listen to it if they put one out. If the Johns are watching this channel, make it happen. This video is meant to highlight some of the lesser known big cities on our planet, and learn some things we may not know about them. We'll start with the 10th largest and work our way back up to Chongqing. Spoiler alert, there'll be lots of other Chinese cities on this list too, including number 10. That city is actually slightly more populous than Hong Kong. Let's learn more after the bike bell. Before I reveal the list, let me tell you where it comes from. I used the United Nations 2018 population estimates to create the list of most populous cities. It's not a perfect list, but it's not bad. It's, just as good as anything else. And then I went down the list and simply chose the cities that I didn't really know much about. Now, I've heard of all these cities on this list, but I couldn't really tell you a thing about them. So this was a fun exercise for me to learn more about global cities, and I hope it's fun for you too. So let's talk about Xi'an, number 10 on the list. For one thing, I didn't know that Xi'an was home to the Terracotta Army, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. These figures were built after the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, so we'd have an army in the afterlife. There are an estimated 8,000 figures there, and no, they don't count toward the 7.4 million residents of Xi'an. Xi'an's history doesn't stop there, as it's the eastern end of the main branch of the Silk Road, a trading route that transported Chinese silk and other products across Central Asia to the Middle East from the 2nd century BCE to the 15th century. But what about the city now? This is going to be a theme with these Chinese cities, but I can't help but focus on its metro system. In 2010, Xi'an had no functioning metro system. Today it has 8 lines, 188 stations, and 258 kilometers of lines. That's more length and about the same number of passengers as the Paris Metro, and they built it in 12 years. That's incredible. Our 9th city you've never heard of has no metro system at all, though maybe we should check back in 12 years. It's Luanda, the largest and capital city of the African nation of Angola. Luanda doesn't have the star power of a Cairo, Cape Town, or Lagos, but that's in part because it's been growing so fast recently. Angola only achieved independence from Portugal in 1975 and emerged from civil war in 2002. Relative political stability and significant investment from oil and diamond interests have fueled Luanda's rise. And what a rise it's been! According to the UN, only the African cities of Cairo and Lagos have more people. Luanda has a striking waterfront with a long, slender peninsula forming the barrier between Luanda Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. There are beaches, a waterfront promenade, and some excellent views of the skyline. Beyond the city center, informal urban settlements stretch inland and continue to be built as migrants move to Luanda for the economic opportunities. But we need to leave Africa and return to China for the 8th largest city you've never heard of, Nanjing. Maybe you've heard the name, but do you know anything about it? Or where it is? It's upriver from Shanghai, sort of in the shadow of its larger and more famous cousin. Like Xi'an, it's known for a wonder found in civilization games, the Porcelain Tower. It was constructed by the Ming Dynasty in the 15th century and destroyed in 1854, so you can't visit it today. In the game Civ 5, the wonder was useful for players hoping to achieve a science victory, which makes sense as Nanjing is known even today as a city of knowledge. It's home to many well-known and highly regarded universities, like Nanjing University and Southeast University. It has the highest ratio of college students to general population in China. Nanjing sounds a lot like the Boston of China with all of its universities and students. Nanjing's metro system is ancient by Chinese standards, with the first line being built in 2005. All of that time has allowed the metro to expand to the 7th longest system in the world. It carries over 3 million passengers a day. One of the cities that beats Nanjing on metro system length is our next city, Chengdu. This city in central China has a metro system with an astounding 518 kilometers of length. That's like adding New York and Stockholm's metro system together. And unsurprisingly, the city has built the metro system at a breakneck pace. Its first line opened in 2010. Chengdu needs a metro system as it's been growing rapidly with no signs of slowing down. There are several massive development projects in various stages around Chengdu. One example is Tianfu New Area, a 1,500 square kilometer development featuring a second airport for the city, the largest building in the world by floor area, almost 3 times the size of the Pentagon, and, importantly, a new Legoland. Chengdu is aiming to be one of the most green cities in the world. The city's goal is to be a city within a park. All residents should be within 300 meters of a green space. They are also hoping to conserve land outside the city as a habitat for pandas, native to the region and a symbol of the city, province, and nation. They're calling this their Park City concept, and if it works, it could overturn the idea of Chinese cities as economic engines that push sustainability to the side in favor of boundless growth. Chengdu is still growing though, and it already has 4 ring roads, though most of the new development is happening around the 3rd. I must applaud their transportation engineers for some perfectly circular rings though. Now we're leaving China, but not Asia, for our next city, located in Japan. Nagoya doesn't have the same notoriety as Tokyo, Kyoto, or Osaka, but Nagoya's got a lot to be proud of. It's one of the main stations of the Tokaido Shinkansen high-speed rail that connects Tokyo to Kyoto and Osaka. And Nagoya's train station is one of the largest in the world by floor area. It's also the tallest in the world as it consists of twin 50-story buildings. Passengers who stop in Nagoya will see a major industrial and trading center for Japan. Major industries include aerospace, automotive, and shipbuilding. Its port is the busiest and largest in Japan, and 11% of all of Japan's trade value passes through Nagoya. For example, Toyota's cars are exported through the port. Most importantly, the port of Nagoya has 2 adorable mascots. Nagoya's history is less cute than Potan and Mitan, but more interesting. Tokugawa Ieyasu moved the capital of Owari province from the city of Kiyosu in 1610, which led to the restoration of Nagoya Castle. The city became a major industrial hub during the Meiji Restoration, but suffered a major setback during World War II, as US air raids destroyed significant parts of the city, including important aircraft production facilities. Sadly, the fire bombings also destroyed a quarter of the city, including most of Nagoya Castle. The castle and the city were repaired and rebuilt quickly, and the city of Nagoya is planning a full-scale rebuild of the castle in the coming years. You might never have heard of our next city if you've been in a coma since 1996. Until then, its name was Madras, but the state government of Tamil Nadu changed it to Chennai. The effort was a continuation of Indian geographic names changing to reject the legacy of British colonial rule. Actually, both Chennai and Madras have pre-colonial origins though, but either way, Chennai is what they call it today. There's a theme in these less famous cities that they tend to be big industrial cities, and maybe aren't the finance and cultural powerhouses that some of the better-known cities are. This theme holds true in Chennai. The city is home to about 40% of India's automobile production, for example. Now that's not to say that Chennai isn't a cultural hub. It's home to Kollywood, the center of the Tamil film industry that produces nearly 200 films per year. Like most of the cities on the list, Chennai is growing rapidly, and its urban planning goals aim to minimize the drawbacks of that growth. The city is beginning the planning process for a new master plan. Officials have already identified priorities, like making the region slum-free by 2031, expanding the metro system, identifying the site for a new airport, and making the city more resilient to natural disasters like floods. Most of Chennai's growth is happening on the urban fringe, and the preservation of open space is also a concern. Okay, you might have heard of Shenzhen, but it's another city on this list clearly overshadowed by another. In this case, the shadow is being cast by Hong Kong, Shenzhen's neighbor immediately to the south. And 40 years ago, there'd be no reason to have heard of Shenzhen, as it was a backwater border town of about 300,000 people. But if you've heard of Shenzhen today, it's because of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, established in 1980. Zones like this exempt business interests from the planned economy of the rest of China and allow the local economy to engage in market capitalism. This makes SEZs an attractive place for foreign and domestic headquarters and can create a lot of economic growth quickly. China has many more SEZs now, but Shenzhen was one of the first 4 and arguably the most successful. Its economic output is now higher than Hong Kong's and 3rd in China, only behind Shanghai and Beijing. It's known as the Silicon Valley of China and is home to companies like DJI, Huawei, and the mobile phone company OnePlus. Shenzhen's success is due in part to its location near Hong Kong, which gave it a strong early trading partner. But Shenzhen's port is one of the busiest in the world, and its ability to export the fruits of its economy to the world has helped it grow. Despite its focus on high-tech and exports, Shenzhen is growing as a tourist destination as well. It has beaches, tall buildings, and theme parks. Notably, Legoland Shenzhen is scheduled to open in 2024 and will be the largest such park in the world. We can't leave a Chinese city without discussing its metro system. It opened in 2004, and today is the 8th longest in the world, just behind Nanjing. Its annual ridership numbers are double Nanjing's, however, and are higher than New York City's and Hong Kong's. We're not going far for our next unknown city, at least not geographically. We're staying in the Pearl River Delta region, home to 71 million people, which is almost beyond comprehension. Amazingly, the largest city in that region isn't Hong Kong or Shenzhen, but a city that's probably even less known than those two, Guangzhou. The city used to be referred to as Canton, and even today residents are known as Cantonese, which is also the name of the language spoken by half of all residents. Mandarin is increasing in popularity, especially as Mandarin-speaking Shenzhen grows in influence, but Guangzhou is still the hub of Cantonese culture. Opera is one focal point of that culture, and it's no surprise that Guangzhou has a massive opera house. It's one of the largest performance spaces in all of China, and designed by the famed international architect Zaha Hadid. Despite its massive size, the building is meant to look like two pebbles on the banks of the Pearl River. Guangzhou's metro system is the 3rd longest in the world, and the longest featured in this video, only behind Shanghai and Beijing. It's over 3 times as long as Hong Kong's and carries slightly more passengers per year than Beijing. The metro system is also unique because it's the only one in China that goes between 2 major cities. It connects Guangzhou to neighboring Foshan, itself a massive city of 9 million people. The shared metro line is symbolic of the increasingly close ties between the 2 cities, and there are some who believe the 2 cities should merge into one city with a shared administration, though this has not yet happened. We have come to our penultimate city, and no surprise here, it's still in China. It's the city of Tianjin, which is another in-the-shadow city, but this time it's in the shadow of Beijing. It's actually between Beijing and the Bohai Sea, one of the busiest waterways in the world. It's so busy because of all of Beijing's shipping goes through Shenzhen and onto the wider world. It's one of the top 10 busiest ports globally and a major contributor to the local economy. The economy is highly diversified and notably home to airplane manufacturer Airbus. The local economy is also buttressed by a special economic zone, similar to the one that built Shenzhen. The result is the highest per capita GDP in China, higher than Beijing and Shanghai. Locals can even earn a living censoring Chinese internet posts. Tianjin is the censorship capital of China, as workers are cheaper than the nearby capital of Beijing, and censoring is a labor-intensive job. Tianjin has the 2nd oldest metro system in China, with its first line opening in 1984. It squandered that advantage, however, and its system length is only 265 kilometers. That's anemic by Chinese standards, but still longer than Paris's or Singapore's, so, it's all relative. Ridership is also somewhat low by Chinese standards, which means that it's only at the level of a London or Madrid. This brings us back to the largest city you've never heard of, Chongqing. When I introduced it back at the beginning of the video, I did not do the requisite metro review, so here it is. Chongqing's 400 kilometers of lines doesn't make it particularly impressive. That's only good enough for 10th in the world, but its system has some unique features. Chongqing is a very hilly city, and its transit agency used monorails on 2 lines because they can handle steep grades and tight curves. Line 3 is the busiest monorail line in the world, with a peak daily ridership of 1 million people per day. It's also the longest monorail line in the world. Take that, Disney World. Chongqing is also building the tallest metro-only bridge in the world, and one of the longest metro-only bridges in the world. That's super impressive. Now, this is only the tip of the iceberg of large cities I know nothing about, and you probably don't know anything about either. I continue this video with a trio of Chinese cities in a video over on Nebula. And if you're not interested in Chinese urbanism, I might still have you covered. I have 8 other videos not available on YouTube, and I add a new one each month. I also have 16 videos with bonus content not available on YouTube, and an entire 20-minute video on planning ancient Rome that might be one of my favorite videos of all time. There are also tons of other exclusive videos on Nebula from real-life lore, mustard, and more. And maybe the best part is there aren't any ads on Nebula. And this gets even better because Nebula is bundled with CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the source for high-quality, engaging documentaries. You'll love the Cities of Tomorrow series that tackles topics like vertical farming, smart cities, and the process of creating brand new cities. It's a perfect series for someone interested in cities. We have a deal where if you sign up to CuriosityStream using the link below or on screen, you get Nebula for free. That's not a free trial, but free as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And they're running a special deal where you can get the entire year for 26% off. That's less than $15 a year for CuriosityStream and Nebula. Signing up is a great way of supporting this channel as well as the dozens of other creators who are working to make Nebula a success. And it's a really great deal too. I know so many of my viewers have already done this, and I would really appreciate your support if you haven't already. So go click on the link on screen and get 26% off.